Okay, guys, now we're getting towards the end of the model and we're going to deal with marketing. And marketing has nothing to do with the enterprise part of it. It purely deals with the SME SaaS part, right? You know, where we have the sales supported and the auto onboarded guys. Now, before you get into making assumptions on your trials to conversion to purchase rates, etc., first off, you need to actually get people to come to your site, see that you've got a great product and want to pay for it, right? Or to try it at least. So you're going to do a bunch of different marketing activities in order to get these people to your site who are then going to convert, right? So you have traffic to trial, to purchase, to money. Yay, right? So there's a couple of parts to this. You'll do some, paid marketing. You'll have organic traffic. You'll do some email marketing to get users. Doing this right can be a little bit tricksy, but ultimately all it's doing is this one thing, which is decreasing your effective paid rate. Okay, so the less that you're paying on full CAC for people, the better. So if say 20% of your activities are non-paid, then that's 80% of your actual CAC would be if you weren't doing all these other things. So email, your blogging, social, all this stuff tries to drive more traffic so that on a weighted basis, your CAC is going to come down. And finally, you're going to have the channel sales. So this marketing sheet is basically the hub for all your marketing activities that you're going to undertake to drive traffic to your site. Once you have them, they are then going to convert into trials. And then in other sheets of the model, those trials will then convert into paying users, which it's been a while now. But if we go into the conversion assumptions, the marketing, basically the trials, filter into here. So we see it's coming from the marketing sheet and from the channel sales sheet. And the channel sales is treated differently to the general marketing activities that you do, because it's sort of like a B2B relationship that you have. So let's start out with the marketing sheet. And I'm going to keep it ungrouped so you understand what's happening, except for the links. So we can see the links come in from all the different sheets: paid, blog promotions, email, social, organic. And this is all traffic that's coming in. It's your traffic build, so to speak, because you build up all your traffic from different places. We can see how much you're spending and how many trials are coming in as an FYI, okay? And that summary, the output, is going to be saying this traffic is going to be turning to this number of trials. And we can see how that traffic is building up again here. And so the traffic is that comes into the sheet here, and you want to make conversion assumptions from traffic to trial. And so you are going to make assumptions on here. Maybe you use my benchmarks, or maybe you know what they are now. Hopefully you do. And those is literally percentage of the traffic then converts into a trial, and you end up with those here, and we accumulate them. And then you can see what it all looks like in the charts. Now let's open this up because, as usual, you can get a little bit more complicated. I have a saturation calculation here. Now, this is unlikely something that you need to do, which is why, by default, it's 1. What it fundamentally is saying is if you go crazy on marketing, there's going to be a point at which your conversion is going to get diminished because you just get too big. Think Facebook. I mean, they must be struggling to grow anymore because they've just got so many people on the site. So do you think the conversion rates from traffic trial are going to be lower? If you understand the analogy, of course they would. So this basically will put a cap and make your conversion rate trend towards 0 if you get too large. And so we'll see that it's added into this formula here, where you max out conversion rate up to here. You have the minimum trials at saturation. And it will basically just restrict your conversion rates here. So what you're doing is you can use the drop-down menu to say yes or no, use the saturation calculation. You're going to set what your targeted population is. Say if you're focused on England, I don't know, 50 million people, what percentage of that total country will potentially be customers? Just ballpark, say 3%. Well, that makes it 1.5 million people. So at the point you get to 1.5 million people, you're not going to have any more conversion, right? So your saturation point of that target demographic, you can set it, say, 20%. And at that point, your conversion rate will only end up being at 0.5% instead of 3.5%. Okay. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's sort of an edge case thing, which you'll know intuitively if you actually need to do it or not. So let's just say goodbye to that. Here, these are FYIs. So you can see what your CAC, your LTV CAC multiples are, your fully loaded CAC, and your LTV to CAC multiples, right? So I added this back in a new version of the model because you actually want to play, this is quite important. These conversion rates are going to make big implications on what your CAC and LTV multiples are going to be. So I have these explicitly here for you to actually sense check what the frick is going on, because this is one of the easiest ways for you to change these metrics. And it's, a bit of a pain to have to then click on one of the KPI sheets and start, comparing these things. So, if you know anything about marketing, what's a conversion rate? You can optimize, change these over time. So they'll either get larger or they'll get smaller. So you have your conversion rates, you can change these over time. You do them for each of the streams of the activities that you do. If you're not doing social stuff, whatever, you don't care about it, just set it to 0, whatever. You basically take the traffic, you multiply the conversion rate, you get trials. You can see what the percentage of the total is coming out of what channel. I see channel seems to be a very large component of it. So maybe too much, maybe you want to decrease your channel. And we'll see cumulatively where they're coming from, so how that trends over time. Now, I think this is pretty simple to do. If you know what your conversion rates are, it's a 5-second job. There's really not very much to do. So let's pony on to the paid organic sheet. We'll just open this up as usual. We can see the summary, what's happening here. The links are not at the top just because the model's so integrated in these sheets that it just makes it twice as long if I put up there. So I just kept them in line, which is not typically what I like to do. But I'm also, aware that making this thing too big makes it a little bit more scary for you. So there's 2 parts here: organic traffic and then your paid traffic. Organic doesn't have its own sheet because it's only a couple of lines long. But it will just say, okay, how many people are coming to my site today? Is these your uniques which come direct or from SEO? You can see that from your GA, Google Analytics. Make sure you've actually got your GTM, etc., set up properly. And then you just put a percentage of how that's going to increase over time. Ideally, maybe you have a reason for it, but if you don't know, fuck cares, so long as those numbers make sense. So we'll see it's growing 8, 6 to 3% a year, and how many visitors you're getting a day, which kind of is a nice little sense check. Then, very simply, if you're doing paid marketing, what channels are you doing? Are you doing SEM, i.e. Google, because like Bing? Display, Facebook? Are you doing Twitter, LinkedIn? Just type in whatever name you want. It's not going to do anything. It's just FYI. And then put how much you're going to spend a month there. So you're going to spend $10,000 a month, and maybe 20,000, 10,000. The truth is, you may not necessarily know, but you'll know if you're spending too much or too less, if your revenue is too small or too large. And so you'll end up dicking around with this quite a lot. And your conversion rates here, these are some of the main drivers that you want to think about to flex your revenue up and down, depending on how important it is. Maybe enterprise is more important, so you don't really care about this stuff, but I'll explain it to you anyway. You can do these one-time campaigns or brand marketing spends, which basically are non-attributable, which means you're going to spend money, but I'm not giving you credit for new users. It's just something you're going to spend money on. So if you want to allocate a budget to this stuff, you whack in money, it'll come out on the P&L. It'll contribute to your CAC, but you're not going to get any users for this stuff. This is just like an FYI if you also want to add in other expenses. As you become like a bigger company, wasting money is something that you do. So we can see what our multiples are here again, so that you can start thinking about what your CPC rates are going to be. Now, your CP rates may come down a bit over time because you get better, you hire better people. But as you get bigger, words become less competitive. They get expensive. You can't afford them anymore. You want to scale that up, and you just can't. You're going to have to start, buying words which are more expensive. So your CAC is going to increase, not necessarily because conversion rate comes down, but because your CPCs increase. So understand that dynamic, okay? So we'll see what these numbers are. And so when you're putting them in and seeing what's happening, you kind of want to trend for your LTV CAC multiples to get in the ballpark you want. As I told you before, that number looks a bit silly. Again, unless you understand why. Maybe you are so good at expansion revenue, that kind of stuff starts making sense within a short period of time. So before I come into here, the main thing that you want to think about in this sheet is how much you're spending, and then what is your cost per click, CPC, which is spam ads on Google AdWords. So when you're searching for shoes or whatever it is, you see ad, click on. It might cost you $12, right? Put these number in. Maybe they're more likely going to increase over time if you be realistic about it. And that will, if you divide your spend by your CPC, you're going to get the number of traffic you're going to get, which of course in the marketing sheet is where that traffic converts into a trial. So for most, consumer, maybe SaaS businesses, this stuff matters. For enterprise, like who cares? But do some analysis, figure out what this is. This is, talking to your agency or talk to your CMO and get these numbers right and, figure this out. Maybe you just want to give them a sheet and be like, dude, just fill this in for me. I don't want to care. In many fundraisers, I have actually just got the CMO or agency to just put all these numbers in for me to make it easier for the founder because they don't necessarily know all the details. So this divided by this equals trials. All this stuff is just FYIs, which is why it's grouped up, for you to think, do these things actually make sense? So look at your CAC ratios, see what your implied conversion rates from traffic to paid, right? Because you'll see that traffic trial paid is 1.5% conversion rate and traffic to pay actually making sense. Maybe you should know what is going on in your benchmarks. But this is, a nice little way of just putting this and this into context. See where a traffic trial, excluding the channel sales, is coming in. I think this is relatively simple. If you understand marketing, this is really not a big deal. And the way I've set it out just makes it, I think, pretty easy for you to do it. And if you want to kind of see the details, you can. If you don't, you just hide stuff and go la-di-da-di-da, and you don't see it anymore. Next, email. Okay. This is one of the things about you're going to care. Just like, who gives a fuck? You just leave everything here as it is, except for what your current email database is, if you don't really care, to be honest. And if you see the contribution for the additions to email, something being too big in your marketing. So where's email? Email is the gray one, right? It's not like a huge thing, but it's still meaningful. It becomes bigger on a cumulative basis over time. Then this is something you just play around with to try and bring your CAC down. So let me walk you through all this. So there are interdependencies with other sheets. I don't think you really want to know all the details. I really kind of nerded out on this. So you're going to have to put in your email database first. So ConvertKit, Infusionsoft, whatever it is you're using, do build your email list. It's actually really useful. So put it in there. Now you're going to do email blasts to people. And so how many times a month are you going to do that? Maybe 4, could be 8, could be 20. I don't know. And over time, you're going to get smarter about how you think about segmentation and targeting people. So there's a reason why you see these stupid enterprise companies with these really long fill-in forms, like how many employees do you have? What category you focus on? Who's the buying, whatever, what country you're in? Because they're trying to segment their users out and do targeted marketing to them. So you could say increasing in time, you'll start segmenting more. Why is that useful? Well, I'll come back to that in 1 second. Now, how does this work? So we're going to assume that, there's going to be open rates when you send things to people. And you can see, examples of resources where I have over there, for what MailChimp thinks makes sense. You can improve over time just by adding something so this number slowly gets larger. Then when people open that stuff, are they clicking in it or not? Which is your click-through on open rate, CTOR. I had to learn that, by the way. See, what is that CTOR? Are you improving that over time? This is just, who knows, right? Maybe if you're good at this stuff, otherwise just BS it and try to get the targeted numbers. Now, people may share those newsletters if your emails are really good. If you're kind of boring, it's probably less. This is better in e-commerce when you're doing like pretty things that people like to share with people, Instagrammable moments. So are they sharing that with people? And of those people they share it with, who's actually going to click on it? And so you'll get forwards on that. And all this effectively adds up to get your traffic. Now, I mentioned this. Why is this number of segments going? So the open rate optimization is, say, 1% here. But once you start doing more segmentation, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 I just assume that the optimization gets multiplied by the number of segments you do. Now, this is total artsy-fartsy, who the hell knows, but it's defensible because it's logical. And frankly, is an investor really going to argue with you about this stuff? No, because they probably don't even understand it, and they probably haven't watched this video. So that adds up your traffic, okay? And so we're going to start adding up. Your newsletter will get bigger over time, hopefully, or people will churn out, of course. Those rates depend on different industries. All these things, I actually read reports and tried to put in numbers which made sense, by the way. So how many people will be signing up from different traffic sources? 2%, whatever. Maybe it gets better because you suck less. Of the people who actually sign up for trials on your site, maybe you can get them to join your newsletter. You can maybe sign up automatically. And then people are going to churn out. So unsubscribe rates, what are they? Can be lower, can be higher, depending on what your industry is. And all this stuff just basically all adds up. New signups, people who leave, whatever, build it up and it assumes that it's sending traffic to your site every month. There is a little bit of lack of logic in some ways, but really, this is pretty nerdy. So we could get more academic, but it's totally pointless, right? Now, blogging and social, it's a little bit similar in a way to the whole email thing. It's a bit academic. We're not really quite sure, but it might be really important to what you do. Maybe you really are going to do a real PR outreach program, and that works for like early stage startups. So we're going to have places you can get featured in. So, premium could be something like, a big blog like TechCrunch. Your moderate could be lesser known blogs with okay traffic. And niche could be small, but very focused and relevant blogs. And so how many times a month are you going to get featured? So maybe you're getting 4 times a month, 1 in a premium, 1 in a moderate, 2 in a niche. So it's 4 times a month. It's potential opportunities for people to see you. And let's not get into this whole long tail versus short tail, traffic coming in. But I'm just assuming it's once hit and quit it. So what traffic would you typically get from getting featured? So if you get featured in TechCrunch, maybe you get 1,500 people coming through. But the results from them can be variable. So for a moderate one, maybe you have 800 people would come from whatever, an okay dork or whatever it is. And then maybe you have some little niche, little VC blog or something where it doesn't get too much traffic, but people love that shit and it's super relevant to you. So just make some sort of assumptions. Again, if you're great at marketing, you'll have a better feel for this. These are, I think, reasonable numbers. People can't really argue with you. And frankly, investors would just won't give a shit. That is the blogging promotion part. The next part we have is social media. So how many followers do you have? I mean, it's an aggregate, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. Just make it up, right? Ballpark. When you do posts, how many people are actually clicking through on that stuff? And how many times are you actually posting? Enough? 4 is tiny, but we don't want the numbers to be too big unless this stuff is like a really critical linchpin of your marketing strategy. We start doing multiplications, right? So are people going to be doing sharing? Of those people who do sharing, how many followers do they have on average? And then for those people who shared the sharing, what people actually click through? I'm not really going to get into the details. If you want to, you can follow the logic and you can follow them out if you understand it. But there really is vigorous, I wouldn't call it academic, but real attention paid to the details of how this is done. So it looks fancy. It may be total bollocks, but it's the best that's around, okay? And then the social influence stuff, like what are the follow rates, people sharing, etc. It all adds up and it comes up to numbers and it looks like this, okay? I'm being a little bit flippant because unless this stuff is really important to you, you'll pay attention to it. But all you really care about is looking at the graphs and B, looking at the contributions of where this shit comes. So this paid stuff is organic. This paid, you ideally want to be as small as possible if you can, because this stuff contributing helps you bring down your paid CAC rate. And so by having all this like quasi-intellectual stuff, it gives you an argument of why your paid CAC will come down over time, if you know how to play that game. So anyway, if you want to do this stuff, do it. Pay a bit of attention if it's really important. If it's not, don't pay too much attention to it. Just put in some reasonable numbers, maybe. If you don't care, just, do I really want to deal with this? No. Then just set everything to 0 because, who cares? Now, channel sales. This is a relatively easy sheet to do if you've got the data set. Whatever link assumptions comes in, we see the CPL you can do on a CPA basis. You can see how much you're spending, how many. You need to have staff for channel sales, by the way. Hopefully you know that. So you can see whatever your ratios are coming in. So how many leads per month can each channel sales manager manage? Okay, so if you're going to get 5,000 coming in and you can do 100 a month, you're going to need 50 people. So where are you going to do your channel partnerships with? Okay, these are actual partners you're going to have to sign up, right? These channel managers are going to do these like business development deals and get people, send you leads. So if you're like a strap onto accounting, maybe you want to sign up with Xero and get them to start sending you leads, but they're going to charge you for them, right? And how many leads per month do you think they're going to start out sending you? And do you agree on a deal for a CPA or a CPL basis? If it's a CPL here, you just type in how much it costs. On a CPA basis, you have feed and then maybe a lead to trial conversion rate that you're going to want to see. With that, because you're paying people a fee when it actually converts, because it's an acquisition basis, you need to know what the conversion from trial to paid is to know the likelihood of this actually happening and doing the payouts, okay? If you know about channel sales, this will make sense to you. Now, over time, you hope that the guys are going to increase the number of leads that they're sending to you. And so you can see what the leads per month will be. If there's an expansion, just put in percentages. If there's no increase, you're only ever going to get 15, just leave it at 0. And we can see CPL is in red, okay? And here in the next section, CPL is going to be in, so CPL here, it's active, so we see we're doing it. This is how much the cost is for it, the number of trials we're getting from it, the number applied on a conversion basis customers we're getting, so what's your implied CPA. And for CPAs, we see the number of trials you're getting, the number of paid customers, and then the actual cost of a CPA for your fee you're paying out. Looking at this basically by taking the number of leads per month you're getting, leads here. Like similarly we've done in other sheets, you just calculate how many staff you need to actually manage this channel effectively. If you understand channel sales, this should hopefully be pretty simple to you. I did not go over the top building this thing. I tried to make this really simple, okay? And so you should just be like, your partners, how many leads are you getting? How much are you paying on a CPL, CPA basis? Does it grow? Does it not grow? And then, all these formulas are basically FYIs to see kind of what the numbers are. It's not hard. So this filters in. Now, I treat channel sales a bit differently than all this marketing stuff because these are activities. This is a relationship. And so you may have seen in other places where when we're looking at the conversion assumptions, I'll add in channel sales at a different point because I'll assume that these are sales assisted, whereas automatically onboarded people are not coming through your channel sales partners, right? Smart. So there we go. That is the down low on how the channel sales works, the blog and social stuff, the email, paid organic, the marketing. So in short, these are all the activities you're doing. This is a relationship. These are activities. They filter in here. You get traffic, trial, then the conversion sheet, you go from trial to paid. Best luck.